Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Meher Sher and these are the headlines. EU chiefs Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel have signed the post-Brexit trade deal in Brussels. The documents will be sent to London for British Prime Minister Boris Johnson to sign later today. London intends to pass the EU Future Relationship Bill through the Parliament at breakneck speed. The United Kingdom has approved the Oxford-AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine for use. Meanwhile, the U.S. reported its highest deaths in a single day with more than 3,700 fatalities. The country also detected the first known case of a highly infectious strain linked to Britain. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, the virus claimed 55 lives and infected more than 2,100 overnight. The nationwide death toll has crossed 10,000 with more than 477,000 cases. Globally, there are more than 81 million infections and 1.78 million fatalities. In India, Samajwadi Party leaders say the Narendra Modi government is working in the interest of corporations and is not bothered about the farmers protesting in cold weather. Meanwhile, farm unions are holding the sixth round of talks with the government. But leaders say they don't think a solution will be reached even today and demand repeal of the three laws. At least 7 people have been killed and more than 20 injured after a 6.4 magnitude earthquake struck central Croatia. It was the second quake to strike the area in 2 days, with tremors reported across the Balkans and as far away as Hungary. And in cricket, New Zealand beat Pakistan by 101 runs in the first test at Bay Oval in Mount Maunganui. The Greens were bowled out at 271 in the second innings while chasing a target of 373 runs. Fawad Alam made a comeback to Test cricket after a gap of 10 years with a century. Alam and Mohammad Rizwan added an impressive partnership of 140 runs in 52 overs. And we're taking you live now to where the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is speaking live at the House of Commons.
Just to say, as the leader of the SNP knows, it is not a point of order, and I'm desperate to hear what he's got to say in his contribution. Rather than use it up now, why doesn't he just save it to get others in? Prime Minister.
Well, I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker. Of course, it was the Speaker of Scotland who took the sovereign decision, quite rightly, to remain in the UK, a once-in-a-generation decision. I think it's highly unlikely the people of Scotland will take a decision to cast away their newfound freedoms and, indeed, the newfound opportunities, not least over the marine wealth of Scotland. We will be able to design our own standards and regulations, Mr. Speaker, and the laws that this House of Commons passes will be interpreted, and I know this is of keen interest to honourable and right honourable members, will be interpreted solely by British judges sitting in British courts. We will have the opportunity to devise new ways to spur and encourage flourishing sectors in which this country leads the world, from green energy and life sciences to synthetic biology. Yes, I give way to my right honourable friend.
I'm very grateful to the Prime Minister for giving way on that point. Some of us had different views on Brexit, but those debates are now for the history books. And anyone in this House in the country should recognise the benefits of an agreement that goes beyond a free trade agreement, from science to energy to security. But will the Prime Minister capitalise on the excellent news that we've had today on the vaccine by pursuing an industrial strategy that puts science and technology at its heart, so that we can grasp the opportunities that come as the world bounces back from COVID during the year ahead?
Indeed,
Prime Minister,
sorry.
Can I just help people and say interventions, those who are high up on the speaking list will understand if they get put down by continuous interventions, because I want to get as many people in as possible. So please. Thank you, Sir Bernard. No more. Prime Minister.
Well, I'm grateful to my right honourable friend, because I remember well working with him on his industrial strategy and his ideas for championing green technology and biosciences, and I can tell him that those ideas remain at the heart of this government's agenda, and we will certainly be using our newfound legislative freedom to drive progress in those sciences and in those investments across the whole of the UK. Because we will be free, Mr. Speaker, of EU state aid rules. We'll be able to decide where and how we level up across our country with new jobs and new hope, including with free ports and new green industrial zones of a kind I'm sure he'd approve of. And if, I'm just going to make an important point, if I may, Mr. Speaker, if in using our new freedoms, either Britain or the EU believes it is somehow being unfairly undercut, then, subject to independent third-party arbitration, and provided the measures are proportionate, either of us can decide, as sovereign equals, to protect our consumers. But this treaty explicitly envisages that any such action should be infrequent, and it banishes the old concepts of uniformity and harmonisation in favour of the right to make our own regulatory choices and deal with the consequences. And, Mr. Speaker, every modern free trade agreement includes reciprocal commitments designed to prevent distortions of trade. And the true significance of the agreement embodied in this bill is that there is no role for the European Court of Justice, no ratchet clause on labour or environmental standards, no dynamic alignment with the EU state aid regime, or indeed any other aspect of EU law. In every respect, we have recovered our freedom of action, and I give way with pleasure to the honourable gentleman who's been rising up and down, Mr. Speaker, many, many times.
Thank you very much, but many honourable members will be facing a dire dilemma because they will feel that our country has been sold short. On the one hand, we have the Prime Minister's thin, terrible, burnt oven-ready deal, and on the other hand, we face the prospect of an even more damaging and destructive no-deal Brexit. So can the Prime Minister advise, given that services account for almost 80% of our economy, why is there so little for that sector within his deal? And in particular, why couldn't he negotiate equivalence and passporting rights for the all-important financial services sector?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it wasn't quite clear from that intervention which way the Labour Party is going to go on this, but whether he's going to go with his right honourable friend, the leader of the Labour Party, and vote for the deal, or whether he's going to join other members of the Labour Party and continue to dither and delay, we on these benches are going to get on, and we will be free of the
Prime Minister Boris Johnson is currently speaking in the House of Commons. The UK Parliament is discussing and voting on the Brexit deal. The Prime Minister has said that this deal is in favour of Britain making its own choices. And now moving on to the news in more detail, earlier EU chiefs Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel have signed the post-Brexit trade deal in Brussels. The documents will be sent to London for British Prime Minister Boris Johnson to sign later today. Johnson says the trade deal is not a rupture, but a resolution of UK-EU relations. He has urged member parliamentarians to back the legislation that will put it into law. London intends to pass the EU Future Relationship Bill through Parliament at a breakneck speed today. The agreement is set to provisionally enter into force on January 1st. Moving on to India, Samajwadi Party leaders say the Narendra Modi government is working in the interest of corporations and is not bothered about the farmers protesting in cold weather. Workers of the opposition party met farmers and extended support against 3 new laws being forced on them. Meanwhile, farm unions are due to hold the 6th round of talks with the government. But leaders say they don't think a solution will be reached even today and demand repeal of the laws. For over a month now, farmers have camped on Delhi borders against agricultural reforms. Now, the United States says it will not be held to nuclear blackmail by Iran. In a tweet, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Tehran has sown terror, threatening U.S. and its allies. But he said President Donald Trump's administration didn't accept the status quo and reimpose sanctions, initiating a campaign of maximum pressure. Meanwhile, Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said U.S. will be responsible for any adventurism in the region. He was talking to his Qatari counterpart, Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani, in a phone conversation. This comes after the U.S. Navy announced the arrival of a nuclear-powered submarine in the Persian Gulf. Pakistan has rejected allegations of institutionalized forced conversions in the country. In a statement, the Foreign Office said non-state actors were behind forced conversions. Spokesperson Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry said the accusations aim to malign Pakistan internationally. He said India tries to discredit nations it has conflicts with, particularly Pakistan. The Foreign Office spokesperson cited the example of the report by Brussels-based EU Disinfo Lab. He said the Constitution protects minorities and the state becomes a party to the case against the perpetrators. Chaudhry said the National Commission for Minorities has been set up and the National Policy of Interfaith Harmony is in process. Now, moving on to the pandemic. In Pakistan, the death toll from COVID-19 has crossed 10,000 with more than 477,000 cases. The country reported 55 fatalities and over 2,100 infections overnight. Health officials say there are more than 37,000 active cases in the country. The health ministry says more than 430,000 people have recovered. It says over 213,000 cases have been detected in the Sindh province, whereas Punjab has reported over 137,000 cases. In the capital city of Islamabad, over 37,000 people have been infected so far. And the United Kingdom has approved the Oxford-AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine for use. Meanwhile, the U.S. reported its highest deaths in a single day with more than 3,700 fatalities. The country also detected the first known case of a highly infectious strain linked to Britain. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, the virus claimed 55 lives and infected more than 2,100 people overnight. The nationwide death toll has crossed 10,000 with more than 477,000 cases. Globally, there are more than 81 million infections and 1.78 million fatalities. This report has more.
Tighter restrictions seem to be the first and the last reprieve in the face of unabated rise in COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations worldwide. The Canadian province of Quebec has urged the federal government to mandate virus testing for residents returning from vacation. Deaths in Latin America and the Caribbean topped 500,000 amid fear that holiday festivities will bring in more infections. In the U.S. COVID-19 hotspot California, strict stay-at-home orders have been renewed indefinitely. Criticizing the current administration's vaccination program, President-elect Joe Biden warned it can take years before the bulk of Americans receive the necessary shots.
We need to be honest. The next few weeks and months are going to be very tough, a very tough period for our nation, maybe the toughest during this entire pandemic. I know it's hard to hear, but it's the truth. The Trump administration's plan to distribute vaccines is falling behind, far behind.
The European Union announced to buy an extra 100 million doses of Pfizer vaccine. Following a drastic spike in new infections, Denmark has extended a hard lockdown until January 17th. A study has found that the new variant linked to UK does not cause more severe illness than other variants. However, the UK reported its highest daily infections with over 53,000 new cases. Meanwhile, another research has found that the new strain existed in Italy as early as August. Australia has tightened curbs in Sydney to avoid a super spreader event during the New Year Eve celebration.
So if I can stress again, the strongest message to everybody across New South Wales, no matter where you are, is please limit your activity and your mobility. We appreciate it's a time of year when people feel they need to be with others, but please try and limit what you do. Please stay at home or make sure you are in a safe setting.
While South Korea is negotiating with Moderna to procure over 40 million vaccine doses as authorities scramble to contain a cluster at a Seoul prison. Inmates waved signs through barred windows pleading for help. In the meantime, China has reported 24 new cases, including 7 locally transmitted on the mainland.
And in the U.S., President Donald Trump's push for $2,000 stimulus checks has stalled in the Senate. Republicans blocked a swift vote proposed by the Democrats, splitting within their ranks. McConnell tied larger checks with 2 other demands from the president, which most Democrats oppose. In a rare challenge to Trump, McConnell urged senators to override the presidential veto of defense bill. In a tweet, Trump asked the Senate to approve increased relief payments at the earliest. The Senate is set to get back at the issue today. And we'll be back with more news after a short break. Stay with us. We're back. Turkish soldiers have arrived in Azerbaijan's Nagorno-Karabakh region for the ceasefire monitoring mission. In a teleconference, Defense Minister Hulusi Akar said the soldiers will join Russian forces in the area. Akar said a Turkish army general and 35 officers will take office after the joint monitoring center becomes operational. Turkey's parliament approved the law to send its peacekeepers for 1 year. This was part of an accord between Ankara and Moscow. Moving on to Syria, 1 person was killed and 3 others injured in Israeli rocket attacks on the outskirts of the capital, Damascus. Syrian state media says the rockets from northern Galilee region targeted troops stationed near al-Zabadani city. It said a Syrian air defense unit in the Nabi Habil area also came under fire. State media added that Syrian air defense countered some of the rockets. The aerial aggression has caused some material damage. Israel's airstrikes in Syria have escalated in recent weeks as it conducted a similar attack in Hama province on Christmas Eve. 2 Saudi soldiers have been killed near the kingdom's border with Yemen. Saudi state media said the soldiers were on duty in the Najran region in the south of the country. However, it has not reported the ranks of slain soldiers or details and circumstances of their deaths. Meanwhile, a Najran official has offered condolences to the families of the dead soldiers. The total number of soldiers killed at the border in December has risen to 9. Yemen's Houthi rebels routinely attack Saudi targets along the shared border by launching missile attacks on bordering cities. And at least 7 people have been killed and more than 20 injured after a 6.4 magnitude earthquake struck central Croatia. It was the second earthquake to strike the area in 2 days, with tremors reported across the Balkans and as far away as Hungary. The quake hit at a depth of 10 kilometers, with the epicenter in Petrinja, 50 kilometers south of the capital, Zagreb. Petrinja mayor says half of the town had been grounded in the aftermath. On a visit to Petrinja, Prime Minister Andrej Plenković asked authorities to move some people as the town was no longer safe. The powerful earthquake cut phone and power lines and sent Croatians into a state of shock. Rescue officials say the search through the rubble is still underway. In Russia, state investigators have opened a new criminal case against Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny. The investigative committee accused him of fraudulently spending public donations up to $4.81 million. In a statement, the body said he used them to buy goods and services and cover expenses such as overseas trips. In a tweet, Navalny termed the case as fabricated, saying it was a hysterical action ordered by Vladimir Putin. He added that authorities will seek to jail him after failing to kill him. But Moscow says Navalny is free to return home, something he says he plans to do. In Argentina, the Senate is set to vote on legalizing abortion amid objections from the Roman Catholic Church. The passage will make Argentina the first country in Latin America to allow abortion on demand. The measure has already been passed by the country's lower house. The influential Catholic Church has called on senators to reject the proposal. If passed, the law will allow women to end pregnancies up to the 14th week. At present, Argentine law allows abortion only when there is a serious risk to the mother's health or in cases of rape. Demonstrators both for and against the bill stood vigil in front of the Senate building in Buenos Aires.
Today, we are once again witnessing a historic debate. I am very proud to be here participating in this session because once again we have the possibility to legislate for and by women and people with the capacity to get pregnant.
Moving on, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has resolved to forge closer ties with Central Asia. He said this after meeting Uzbekistan's Minister for Transport, Mahkamov Ilham, in Islamabad. Khan pledged to enhance trade, investments, energy, and people-to-people contacts. The two sides agreed to pursue a trans-Afghan railway line project from Mazar-e-Sharif in Afghanistan to Peshawar. The Prime Minister highlighted the importance of Afghan peace and regional stability and connectivity. Ilham reaffirmed his country's desire to expand trade and connectivity with Pakistan beyond the Indian Ocean. And Pakistan imagines a new Engage Africa policy to strengthen ties with African countries. Senate Chairman Sadiq Sanjrani said this after meeting a visiting African Union delegation. Sanjrani said Islamabad has also decided to increase diplomatic missions in African countries. He said the exchange of parliamentary delegations will pave way for enhanced economic, political, and defense cooperation. He said Pakistan is respected among African nations for its role in UN peacekeeping operations. The Senate Chairman said Pakistan values relations with Djibouti and other African countries. Moving on to Ethiopia, at least 97,000 people have fled after gunmen massacred over 200 civilians in the western Benishangul Gumuz region. The Ministry of Peace says some 50,000 are staying at a makeshift camp in Tana Belis district, while another 40,000 internally displaced persons took shelter at a camp in the Owi zone of Amhara region. Gunmen carried out ethnic-based attacks in Ethiopia's Metakel zone while people were asleep. The zone has come under the direct command of the Ethiopian military since the attacks. Earlier, federal troops deployed to the area said they intensified law enforcement measures and killed nearly 50 militants. In the U.S. state of Tennessee, a police report reveals that the girlfriend of the Nashville blast suspect told police last year he was making bombs. According to the report, police officers met her on August 21, 2019. The report says police visited Anthony Warner's home afterwards, but found no evidence of the crime. It said the officers who responded to the call notified their superiors within the police department. It quotes a police spokesperson saying they had forwarded the incident report and Warner's information to the FBI. The FBI said it found no records on Warner after receiving a police request on August 22nd. Before these revelations, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation had said the suspect was not on their radar. And Chinese hotels are preparing to house the flow of visitors as the year-end celebrations draw near. China is among the few countries that have been able to successfully handle the pandemic. This report has more.
As 2021 comes upon us, celebrations around the world have been restricted, but hotels in China are facing a surge of bookings from around the country ahead of New Year's Eve. Travel influencer Gugu is looking for a room at a new upscale hotel located in popular district of Shanghai. Gu warns that rooms at this hotel and elsewhere are booking up fast. Also popular for the holiday season in China are hot spring hotel rooms.
On December 31st, or the New Year's Eve, all our best rooms with a panoramic view of the Bund have already been booked out. Room reservations with river views are also particularly good. We expect our occupancy rate will reach 100% on December 31st, New Year's Eve.
Data from a Chinese travel platform shows bookings have increased around New Year's Day compared to the same period last year.
Moving on to business, European stocks are trading slightly higher amid more positive vaccine news in the region. London's FTSE 100 is edged up marginally. European stock 600 opened just above the flat line. The CAC 40 in Paris and Italy's FTSE MIB have also edged up marginally. However, Frankfurt's DAX bent the trend and slipped below the flat line. Earlier, Asian bourses traded mixed, with mainland Chinese, Hong Kong and South Korea's shares gaining. And Bitcoin has hit a record high of $28,599.99. The rise has taken gains this year past 295% amid increased demand from bigger investors. World's most popular cryptocurrency was last up 3.7% at $28,375. Bitcoin has surged nearly half since crossing $20,000 mark on December 16th. It has increasingly seen demand due to its inflation hedging qualities and the potential for quick gains. Expectations of Bitcoin becoming a mainstream payment method also contributed to its heightened demand. And on to sports, starting off with cricket. New Zealand beat Pakistan by 101 runs in the first test at Bay Oval in Mount Maunganui. The Greens were bowled out at 271 in the second innings while chasing a target of 373 runs. Tailenders Shaheen Afridi and Naseem Shah blocked for 7 overs before Naseem was bowled by spinner Mitchell Santner, ending Pakistan's resistance. Fawad Alam made a comeback to Test cricket after a gap of 10 years with a century. Alam and Mohammad Rizwan added an impressive partnership of 140 runs in 52 overs. The second match of the series is slated for the 3rd of January at Hagley Oval in Christchurch. And in the Spanish La Liga, Barcelona felt the absence of Lionel Messi as they were held to a 1-1 draw by struggling Eibar. Martin Braithwaite failed to put Barca in the lead when he missed a penalty in the first half. Striker Quique Garcia then put Eibar in the driving seat with a 57th minute lead, stunning the hosts. Barca equalized 10 minutes later with forward Ousmane Dembele steering in a first-time shot. Braithwaite again had a chance to win it for the hosts, but bundled wide from close range. The point leaves Barcelona 6th in La Liga, while Eibar are 14th, 2 points clear of the relegation zone. And now it's time to take a look at the latest weather updates from around the world. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.